Best novels of folk horror, historical fiction horror, occult horror. Hello guys and welcome to I Love Reading, a channel about interesting book-related subreddit topics. If you love our content, please press the like button, leave a comment and lastly, if you're new here, subscribe to our channel. Now let's get started. I am looking for novels to read that are indeed horror, but with a setting and narrative that is historically rooted. I have become obsessed with some of the A24 films such as Midsommar, The Witch, Hereditary and The Lighthouse. I want books that remind me of these films. My extent of horror has been H.P. Lovecraft, and I absolutely love his stories. Thanks ahead of time. Recommend away. Some good writers of folk horror. Adam Neville. The Ritual, The Reddening, Last Days. Andrew Michael Hurley, The Lonely, Devil's Day. John Langan, The Fisherman. Thomas Tryon, Harvest Home, Victor Laval, The Changeling. Alison Littlewood, The Hidden People. Phil Rickman, The Man in the Moss. Caitlin Kiernan, The Red Tree. Second The Fisherman, and also the work of Andrew Michael Hurley. The Lonely is fantastic. His third novel, Starvaker, has just come out, which I really want to read. Seconding The Fisherman by John Langan. A good part of it takes place in the early 1900s at a reservoir construction site in the Catskills, and while I haven't read Lovecraft myself, I think the horror leans toward that style. I just finished it and I really enjoyed it. Folk horror is my favorite subgenre, so here are some of my recommendations. Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon. Wilding Hall by Elizabeth Hand. The Lonely by Andrew Michael Hurley. Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick. The Wicker Man by Robin Hardy. This is the novelization based on the movie by the original director. No Nicolas Cage involved. Experimental film by Gemma Files. Also, check out subreddit r folk horror. The Terror by Dan Simmons. So incredibly well done that it made me wish historical horror was more common of a niche. It touches on folk horror too, but a First Nations-centric approach rather than a European one. Dare I say it ticks the boxes? Hex by Thomas Oldhuvelt has a very similar feel to the movies you mentioned. The historical part of the book is largely fictional, so it's not set in another time period or based around real historical events. But that being said, history and folklore play a huge part in the book, even if they are fictional. So it sounds like it's right up your alley. Mayhem by Sarah Pinborough. Focuses around the Thames torso killings with a supernatural twist. I've only read one book by her, but I really liked it. I usually go into books blind. I don't want to know anything about it or the author if I don't already. So I had no idea where the story was going, and I was like, whoa. Didn't see the supernatural twist coming, but it was really cool. The Yarns World series from Benedict Patrick starting with, They Mostly Come Out at Night. Here's the Google Books blurb. The villagers of the forest seal themselves in their cellars at night, whispering folktales to each other about the monsters that prey on them in the dark. Only the Magpie King, their shadowy, unseen protector, can keep them safe. However, when an outcast called Lonan begins to dream of the Magpie King's defeat at the hands of inhuman invaders, this young man must do what he can to protect his village. He is the only person who can keep his loved ones from being stolen away after dark, and to do so he will have to convince them to trust him again. They Mostly Come Out at Night is the first novel from Benedict Patrick's Yarns World series. Straddling the line between fantasy and folklore, this book is perfect for fans of the darker Brothers Grimm stories. What are the traits of the folk horror genre? I'm interested to find out more. Often set in a pastoral or rural location, with events precipitated by an encroachment of new and old, often featuring old religions or traditions being revitalized or uncovered, e.g., the modern police officer coming to Samarisal and finding out they're carrying out old pagan rituals. Adam Scavell wrote a book about it, and I also really enjoyed Howard David Ingham's We Don't Go Back. That one is on Kindle Unlimited if you have it. Have you read Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff? It's set in the 1950s and is about a black family and their ties to a white family that is trying to bring an eldritch horror into the world. It's also very much about the horrors of Jim Crow America. Includes some sci-fi horror in there as well. Wickenhurst by Michelle Paver. Set in Edwardian times in the Fenlands in East England. Religious undertones, folklore features too. It is billed as horror, but it's not scary. It's a very good read, very atmospheric. Can be a bit slow at times but definitely worth reading, I loved it. I'm also not sure if this is exactly what you're looking for, but one of my favorite books ever is Perfume by Susskind. It's about a killer obsessed with scent, and the prose is amazing. It's set in 18th century France. Okay. Technically this is not categorized as horror, but it definitely has horror elements to it that I think for what you are looking for. Jonathan Stroud's Lockwood and Company series. Also, I believe you would enjoy Emily Carroll's graphic novel Through the Woods. It is short, but Carroll deals in a sort of soft terror, more psychologically unnerving than blood and guts, and the art is lovely. You might want to give Dracula a try. It is set and published in the 1890s, and the funny thing about it is that it is almost science fiction. Bram Stoker was fascinated with modern technology, and the characters use many of these brand new inventions to combat Dracula. Some of it is super interesting, such as their use of blood transfusions. Plus the book is just great all around. Check out Mulengro by Charles de Lint. It's set in the US, and it's about a young Romani guy trying to solve a series of vicious murders. I highly recommend. This House is Haunted by John Boyne. Released in the last decade but takes place in 19th century England, written in Dickensian prose. Our Lady of Darkness by Fritz Leiber is a classic of old San Francisco. Gothic-inflected hippie-era disquieting psychic horror, old meaning, predating the tech boom, early 70s, IIRC definitely not genre fiction. Short enough to read while walking about the places mentioned, geography is a central theme. Phil Rickman is excellent if you want to read British folklore horror. Just make sure to get his earlier work, The Man in the Moss, Crib, The Chalice. His later books deal more with religion and crises of faith, Merrily Watkins series. You might like Anno Dracula by Kim Newman, which takes place in Victorian England and features a vampire heroine. IIRC, it wasn't scary. More like a rollicking adventure story full of interesting characters. The Terror by Dan Simmons, mentioned by another poster, was made into a great miniseries. The Hallow is a good movie in the folk horror subgenre about a family moving into a rural area in Ireland full of secrets and evil forest creatures, if you're interested. Ninth House is a new occult fiction novel by Lee Bardugo. The setting takes place at Yale University and incorporates New England history. Just started reading Thomas Ligotti's work. Highly recommended if you're already into Lovecraft. There you have it, top novels of folk horror, historical fiction horror, and occult horror recommendations by Reddit users. Note: books talked about in the video can be accessed through the link on the description below. Thank you for watching till the end. If you loved the video, don't forget to press the like button and also subscribe to I Love Reading. See you on the next video.